Gray, 1990, 17 people line up, article in Arizona Highways saying that maybe somebody can do it in 3 days. So a bunch of ultra runners say, you know what? We think we can do it in a day.
You really gotta focus on the trail in this race. You can hardly look off or you might go down.
I got destroyed and I bonked really hard from about mile 35 on. It was a death march for the most part, so I had higher expectations last year, and so I want to come back this year and see if I can improve on what I did last year.
I've forgotten, I think this is my 5th Zane grade. It's your 3rd or something, but I think it's my 5th. I just keep forgetting how bad it is out there.
And by bad he means good.
Right.
Probably the same reason everybody else does it, because even like one Zane to the next is a different Zane than the last. You know, it's never the same. Like we had a blizzard 2 years ago, and some years it's scorching hot, and your experience out on that trail is not the same that it was the last time. And one year you go into it, and 2013 I was in awesome shape. 2014 I was in awful shape. You know, so your race that year is dictated almost by how much you want to allow yourself to suffer by not training. And that's always been my MO and my brother's MO. We never train and then just suffer. But somehow we always come back. So either we're masochistic or we just, I don't know.
I only finished it twice, 90 and 2001. So it's not one of those races I kept coming back, probably because of how hard it was the first time. And every time we talked about Highline Trail or whatever, she'd go, oh, that's the one, you turned purple and came into 13 hours, you know, out of the, and it was a big story. There was no hotel rooms. We had a young child, you know, and I used to do these before kids and then with young kids. Yeah, now they're all grown up and happy that I'm still able to be out here.
Never done Zane Grey before, only worked as a volunteer with Zane Grey. So yeah, this is a preparation for Vermont 100. Beyond stoked for tomorrow. It's just gonna be like kind of a mini reunion, both with like the trail, the land, and the people. It's gonna be awesome. So
this is the 27th annual running of the Zane Grey 50, which runs point to point on the Highline Trail from Pine, Arizona to Christopher Creek. This is the 9th year of us being the race directors. It's considered one of the hardest 50 milers in the country and one of the longest running 50 milers in Arizona.
Well, I remember I ran like 10 ultras that year, and Pat McKenzie called me and said he's putting on this race. So I showed up. I used to run with no shirt on half the time, which was later on a dumb move, but I had 2 water jugs. I got lost so many times, I kept passing up the field of like 11, I don't know how many there was, and then repassing everybody. And about 4 miles to go, I ended up at Woods Canyon Lake and ran all the way out to the highway, and it was dangerous coming down the highway. I jumped the back of this guy's pickup truck, and he took me too far past the finish, and I had to run back up from the fire station. And they were looking for me to come out of the trail, and I came out of the other way. I probably covered like 62 miles at least that day. But technically, Karsten Solheim completed the whole course a little ways behind me, but they never really made a big deal about it. So Karsten probably really won the first one, but nobody said anything all these years, and I figured I ran a long way, and it never really dawned on me till this year. So it was deadfall everywhere. Maybe a couple diamonds in the trees, not many. Like you can count on your hands for this gnarly course. Trees lying everywhere, and you had to follow these hatchet marks. And you couldn't see these hatchet marks. You'd wonder if it was sap in the tree or whatever. It was a gnarly day. I remember being really dehydrated, and I used to run these 50s in like 8 hours, and my wife was kind of waiting for me around that time. Well, like 13 hours almost, turning purple because it was cold out. There I was. So it's imprinted in my mind. I came back and ran 11 hours, 3 minutes in 2001, and I'm so happy to be here at 53 years old. Just try to finish this year and have fun out there. So it's going to be windy, which we'll have to put up with, and I'm looking forward to it. And I heard the trail's in good shape, so that gave me confidence this year.
With the trail improvements to the trail, sort of lengthen the course a little bit. Could be as long as 52 miles now. And a lot of people do a lot of volunteer work cutting back the manzanita overgrowth and the fallen trees.
Well, I actually worked on the first section here of the Zane Grey race that starts up in Pine, and worked up about, we ended up working about 11 miles on that trail. The first time that I worked on that was in 2009, and the last time that I worked on that was in 2012.
So when the race was run in 2010, there were hundreds of trees down on the course. Manzanita was growing into the trail. You didn't know where the trail started or ended. People were getting lost consistently. So we got after it. Thornley, I met up with Thornley. I just got back from the Grand Canyon. He owns a tree cutting business out of Flagstaff, so he's comfortable with a 30-inch chainsaw. And he called me his lopper bitch, because I focused on lopping the shit out of the manzanita. So we called it the 5-year plan. We were naive enough to believe that we'd be able to clear that trail and make it discernible as a trail in 5 years. So year after year, we started meeting up late January, meeting up on the rim, camping out there, spending the weekends hacking and whacking. And it was clearly naive to have thought that we could have even made a dent in it within 5 years. So then we started bringing in a lot of Joe's folks. Ara Viper had helped a lot. And Volunteer of Arizona also did a lot of reroutes to help restore the trail. So what you see nowadays is completely different than what was 6 years ago. Anyone that ran it back in 2010 should be given a medal for suffering through that.
Justin says you're going to go down anyways, but I try to take the positive attitude on that.
Carl Meltzer a few years ago, leaping over a fallen tree, grabbed a branch and the branch broke and he broke his arm in the process. Pulled into mile 44 with like an hour lead in first place and sat there in the aid station debating what to do as to whether or not to continue on or to drop. He ended up dropping. Had a dislocated thumb. He finished. He dislocated that in the first 8 miles. We got a guy come into mile 44 with a kidney stone. That was a couple years ago. Andy Felton, the year after she won it, she fell and hit her head. Came into Washington Park with a concussion. She dropped.
Lots of bruises.
Lots of scrapes, yes.
Lots of blood.
And then there's some years people finish with not a single scratch on them. In other years, people, same year, will have scratches all over them. Some years people get absolutely lost, and some people who've never done this race, people who've done this race multiple times getting lost, and people who've never done this race never getting lost.
We're definitely not overtrained, right, Carly?
Yeah, I'm not overtrained. The legs are fresh.
Yeah.
That means that I haven't been running very much.
Yeah.
But it's hard. We have 2 kids now, and this will be my second race back from our second for our son post-pregnancy. So whatever it is, I don't have a kid to deal with. I don't have a phone to answer. So it can be as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So
we both have a lot of little kids. Like he's got 3 kids under 6, and I've got 2 under 3. So it's challenging to get out and run. So you have to get up and get miles wherever you can get them. And we're both in the hotel business, so this is the busiest time of year. So even just getting long runs in on Saturday is few and far between. So it just coincides with timing that it's been really tough. So he's literally never run more than 100 miles in a month, ever. And for an ultra runner, that's pathetic, you know. And so he's just, I remember one year he just didn't, first year he actually was going to run it, he hadn't run even a 20 miler a couple years ago. He ran like 38 miles in March leading into it, so he had no base. He's like, and he rolled his ankle 2 weeks before, and his only run that he actually got to do. And then we started off going up the first climb, and he's like, I'll just go as long as I can. At worst case, I can hike. And then he got to 17 at Washington Park, and kept going. And then he got to Hell's Gate. Didn't have a choice, so he kept going. Got to Fish Hatchery. He's like, oh, maybe I'll keep going. And by the time I had finished, I swear I thought he would have quit, and he was just going to show up in the car, because I knew his ankle was wrecked. He had no training. And then he still broke 13. Finished. So, and he's always done that. He like just doesn't have to train. He just beats not going to win the race, but he always seems to pull it out. So even though he'll sandbag and say he hasn't trained, he's probably still going to have a solid chance of beating me tomorrow. So.
I ran 12 something, so I'd like to run faster. There was some walking.
Yeah.
But I almost caught Ian. So hopefully.
Don't remind me. Well, I'm gonna run hard. I'd rather not be out there all day. Yeah. So I'd run, like 8.5 hours, and that'd be okay. We'll see.
I know I'd like to be competitive with it. I think my goal last year was I just wanted to finish and I wanted to run a strong race, and that didn't really happen. I felt really weak and beat at the end. So this year I'd like to finish competitively and see how I can do, stack up against the other guys. Training's been good, and this race is actually kind of using it as like a build up to Western States. So figured if I could get a good solid 50 in about 2 months out from Western, then I could just kind of build up to that 100-miler.
2011 was my second one, and I was just, I don't know if I just did everything wrong, ultra wrong, you read just everything wrong. And I suffered miserably from fish hatchery every step to the finish. I wanted to quit so bad and didn't, which is why it was one of my favorite finishes, because I should have quit. It was awful. My stomach was completely destroyed. I swear that my spleen was just bleeding internally and just leaking into everything else. But I finished, and then of course you're fine. But from every single step, I hated it. Hated it. I was never going to do it again, and of course signed up the minute it opened. It was by far my worst race I've ever done. It was 2011 Zane Grey. Awful.
I ran it in the late 90s, back when it was less than 50 people finished the race. Now we're having 150 entries.
And it always came on my anniversary, and anybody that's married with kids and runs a lot of ultras realizes you have to be diplomatic about those. So I'd end up taking her hiking up here during the race some years. And then for years there was a 50K we ran from the finish line in and back. And always had fond memories of the wildlife. Saw wild turkey. Chased a wild turkey one year. It was pretty cool. I wanted to do it a couple years ago, and my wife really didn't want me to, so I honored her that year, and the weather was so bad. I was so happy that I didn't come up. But this year everything lined up, and I feel pretty good, and we'll see.
And actually I found that being the race director of Zane Grey 50 is easier than actually running it.
I'm not sure which is easier, doing the race photography or running the race, because I go to the start line early in the morning, and then I stop off at the first aid station, take a few photos, and then go to the 17-mile aid station where I take photos of everyone that goes through. And then I have to rush back to Payson, upload the photos, edit the photos, take them to a 1-hour photo, get them developed, run and then try to run to the finish line before the first finisher if possible. And some years that's harder than other years, depending on how fast the people are. And then I stay at the finish and get finish photos of everyone until generally even the last finisher, which is around 9 o'clock at night. So it's a very long day. But I've been doing the photography since 2010. And that's basically where I got to know Joe, is through this race, and we became friends, and now we're married.
That's right.
2013, I trained harder for that race than I have any other races, and I only got 10:37, but it was 2 hours faster than I'd ever run it before, and I had to push really hard to get there. My pacer Jay just rode me like a broken mule. I mean, like, didn't let me let up. And I remember that climb out of Horton Creek, the mile 40 or so, just you cross the river and it's just straight up for switchback after switchback. And we ran every step, and we passed the guy on the way up, and he was like, come on, come on, come on. And we ran every step intentionally knowing that he wasn't going to. And then he never caught us after that. We ended up beating him by 45 minutes.
Back in the day, for whatever reason, people would finish up and there were no cold beer, and I thought that kind of sucked, Maybe there was some Doritos and some fucking M&Ms or something like that, but I mean, people want to drink beer and hang out and trade stories about what happened at mile 13 and about how they blew up at 18 and tripped on their face at 40, and how they wanted to give up at Sea Canyon, but they kept going. And then finally they come across the finish line, and there I am with this mug with cold beer. What's better than that, you know?
And there's all kinds of trails up there that they're just amazing.
I rarely see anyone out there. I definitely enjoy the fact that if I fuck myself up out there, then that's that, you know? Chances are no one's gonna find me until I've been half-eaten by whatever it is that's out there.
Yeah, I've done thousands of miles now on the rim. It's like almost all my miles end up going up there.
I came to love the area. It's beautiful. I mean, it's got some of the cleanest air in the world. If you don't believe me, Google it. It's pretty remote.
Everybody goes to Grand Canyon. Everybody goes to Sedona. Everybody runs in Flagstaff. But this is a gem that is never in the magazines. It's never really covered as like some of the prettiest places in Arizona because we're so fortunate to have all the gems that we do have. But it's spectacular.
So I love the race. I love the rim. This is right in my backyard. I'm an hour from the trailhead. And that's why I spend so much time. I mean, every year, you know, I kind of say, this is my last year because I'm throwing out my back on the trail, you know. Spent a lot of money, you know, driving back and forth, broken loppers, just bought a chainsaw. That cost a lot of money. But I keep getting sucked back. January rolls around and I'm like, good time to get back up to the rim.
So I think people see it, they see Arizona and it's not what they thought they were going to get, and then they get here and they're blown away. That's why we keep having people come back every year. It's the same crew that always come back to Mogollon. They always come back to Zane. It might be the only race they run all year. It's Zane Gray, or it's the only race they'll do is Mogollon. So there's just something unique about the rim, I think, that people are drawn to.
My name's Scott Modulewski, and Zane Gray is behold. Behold.
My name is Joe Gallopi. I'm the race director of Zane Gray 50, which is our project, our annual project. Our contribution to the ultra running community of Arizona.
My name is Megan, and to me, Zane Gray is where I met my husband.
My name is Jeremy, and Zane Gray is destructive. Destructive would be mine.
My name is Scout Phillips, and Zane Gray is going to be a dream come true tomorrow. It's been on my bucket list, and now I'm doing it.
My name is Charlie. Zane Gray is a ferocious beast.
My name is Carly, and Zane Gray is my tanning bed.
My name is Al Kerner, and Zane Gray is a nightmare.
Sometimes if I get done early, you can say, oh no, we're still on the rim, but then I'll stop at another trail, try something different on the way home. And there's like Deer Creek, or there's Ballantine Trail or something, and I'd always heard that there's a Sycamore Creek on the way back down. You can stop there and you can go up the canyon. I've always wanted to see what was up the canyon. And so it's on the east side of the road. And you hike in about a mile, because you can see the trail from the freeway if you look really closely, and then it drops down in the river. And then I went down there, I was all by myself, went down there, and it was like 3 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon, and there's just 24 completely naked old people there. I'll tell you where it is, because I know you're gonna be interested, but yeah, it's like apparently this little nudist spot. Totally. So I was just driving down, I was like, I've always wanted to stop, so I stopped, and and there's just a whole bunch of balls everywhere. It was awful. I was like, well, going home it is. So now every time I tell my wife I'm gonna be home at a certain time, I just show up at that time. I'm not doing any more side trips. Yeah.
Oh,
hey gang.
holy crap.
Behold. My name's Scott Modulewski and Zane Gray.
Oh, sorry.
And Z-
And we like
I
cats.
like cats.
Sweet, thank you. Do you have anything else you want to?
No, that's good.